This was very difficult for me.
No shit. I'm going to react to a video on YouTube. It's called I Wrote a Screenplay in 24 Hours. My current average for finishing a screenplay to a level that I'm happy with and that I submit to competitions and send to people is 4 years. So let's do some maths on that. 365 times 4. So this guy's written a script 1,460 times faster than I can write a script. I have seen a couple of these videos on YouTube before where screenwriters will, it's like a challenge where they'll write a script in 24 hours or 48 hours. This will be really interesting. I haven't seen this video before. I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy's process. I mean, the first thing I'll say is look at that face. That is the face of determination. And I mean, his face just tells a story. So I'm already interested. Let's get into it and just see where this goes.
Honestly, this was the worst thing that I've ever done to myself. It's 6 a.m. Well, about 6:20 actually. And I am about to write the feature film screenplay in 24 hours. So why am I doing this? I have never been able to concentrate on one thing at a time. I am what you call a skill hopper. When I played RuneScape, I know this is a good example, right? I could never do one thing for an extended period of time. For example, if I did woodcutting, it's like just 1 hour at a time.
RuneScape. I've never heard of it. This looks like some online game that is probably the most addictive thing ever. Screenwriting it's hell for procrastinators. It's just going to amplify whatever procrastination tendencies you already have. I tend to try to keep video games as my reward for when I've done some work, because if I don't do that, then I will just play games forever and never write anything. We all have our vices. RuneScape.
I want to force my mind to do things that I don't really actually want to do, so I can just power on through them and get some self-discipline like that. I have also never been able to write for more than 4 hours in a day, or even more than 40.
Now, he's presenting this as a problem. I don't think it's that much of a problem. 4 hours, if you can do 4 hours of writing in a day, that is good. It's not really about how long you spend. It's about the quality of what comes out. Even 40 good minutes, you might be able to solve like a problem in your second act or something like that in 40 minutes. If you've done that, then you might have saved yourself weeks of work. So I wouldn't get too hung up on the amount of time that you're clocking. Everybody works differently. Sometimes you get more writing done just on like going for a walk. In fact, you should look into the way that sleep benefits us. Sleep isn't just there for when we're tired. It's actually part of your brain's mechanisms for processing information. And what will often happen is a problem that you can't solve today, you will be able to solve tomorrow after you've slept on it and you've had time for your brain to actually reconfigure itself and look at that problem from a different perspective. That's not a myth. That is actually a real thing that happens. So sometimes going to sleep can be the best thing to solve a screenwriting problem, rather than just sitting there trying to solve it and looking at a blank screen.
Oh, so this is going to be a real challenge for me. And as I said before, this challenge is all about self-discipline. I have a goal. I know I can achieve it, but I have to push myself. So I will keep pushing myself. And if I don't give up, I can achieve it. How I wrote this screenplay in 24 hours. It all started when I saw Tyler's video writing a screenplay in 48 hours. I was thinking, but wait, Carl, your title says 24 hours. And it does. 48 hours seemed very doable to me, so it did not.
48 hours seemed doable. Okay. I like you. I still don't have the answer to why. This seems like just a bit of a perverse test for oneself. I don't know, it's like trying to build a house in one day or something like that. Like, What are you getting out of this? That's what I'm wondering, Carl. Yeah, there's a sense of achievement, no doubt. Is it more about training yourself to be disciplined? If that's the case, then I'm not sure that squeezing in such a Herculean task into 24 hours is actually achieving that goal. I think there are other ways to achieve self-discipline. But, I mean, I applaud you.
I did the math in my stupid head and thought that if I start at 6 a.m., come up with an idea, characters and storyline by 12 p.m., then I can write 1,500 words per hour.
So what's really interesting about that is the way he breaks down the time that he thinks things will take. He allows himself 6 hours to think of the story, basically. So that's what, a quarter of the time that he's actually going to spend on the labor of writing the script, he's dedicating to the entire concept and the narrative. I'll be really interested to see how that works. I've never thought of it that way. And obviously it's the most important thing, and you can't even get started without having that. So it makes sense to front load the 24 hours with coming up with that. And obviously he can't spend the whole time just thinking of a story. He has to do the work. So yeah, 1-4, the ratio. Let's see how that works out.
Go to sleep by 11 p.m. Seems like a regular day so far, right? You can't really write for 10 hours straight. I use Clockify to check my progress, and I wrote for 12 hours in total. I mean, not all in one go. That is way too intense for me. So what I sometimes do is that I have an idea and I want to write it down really quickly, and I just stop writing. And you just hit roadblocks like that. Suddenly you find yourself 2,000 words in, or like 50 pages in, and your story is all finished.
Yeah, this is classic.
So I did not want that to happen.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how you deal with this. This is the most common thing. People just jump straight into writing a screenplay with I would say a half-baked finished story, and that 50-page mark is lethal, because you feel like you've done good work and you're in the second act, but then it just grinds to a halt and you're just like, where is this going? Fuck. And it can stay there for years. So, I don't have a solution for that. I've tried this for years as well. Usually I just park it and work on the third act at this point, and that might take months. But once I've got the third act and I at least know how it ends, what it means, what the crisis scene is, all of that stuff, then I can go back, and quite often, I've done this a few times, I will throw away that first 50 pages. Maybe I'll use a scene or something like that, but in general, I needed to write that 50 pages just to get it out of my system. But just because you got it out of your system and you wrote it, doesn't mean it has value.
To happen here, I wanted to reach at least, I wanted to write a thriller, so I knew it's going to be like at least 60 pages. So I wanted to hit something like that. And here's what I did differently. So what I wanted to do here was make a plan. I'd come up with a premise, a story, create character sheets, and then make a log line of the story, keep that beside me, and just write it all out. For the premise, I wanted this to take place in one confined space so the characters didn't have to.
I think the best thing he did there was actually the log line. The log line, if you can summarize your entire story in one sentence, then you must know it. That's kind of your North Star for when you're writing a script, especially if you're trying to do it in 24 hours. I would just write that out and have it on the wall so that I just keep looking at it every time I feel myself going off course.
Move around a lot, and I didn't have to create new spaces. So I wrote down the first things that came to mind, and I decided to go with an island. Then I drew a large circle on paper with island inside and started filling it with actions or something that I wanted this story to have or happen on the island. And this gave me a rough sketch of the story. Then I used this to write like a Wikipedia description, is what I call it.
What's really interesting about that is he's, like the Tyler video, he's using visuals to map out the story rather than writing out a document. He gets to the document, I think, in a minute, but the first thing he does is actually create like a visual map. I think that's really smart. It's probably a much more actionable interface for your brain to convert that into a film narrative.
Of the story I could use to make a log line. And once I had that done, I took it apart, wrote the log line, which I use to write the story. It's super easy to do it like this. And I ended up with around 80 to 90 details to use as story points. So
Fucking hell.
using the log line is like drawing by connecting dots, but for writing. I love it. It just makes the writing process very, very fast.
I mean, it kind of creates the question, his method here, as as awesome as it is, it does create the question of, could you train an AI to do this? You could feed all that data that he's just created into an AI and get them to write a screenplay. Start looking for a job.
Now I just needed to create some backstory for the characters, which I did really quickly so I could start writing the story. Because at this point I was just so excited about the project and the story that I just wanted to get writing. I would continue to go back to the character sheet if I had an idea or something that I wanted to include in the story or the character progress. And now I could start writing. And
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, I drank about 13, 14, 15 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
Not to get the energy, but because I love the taste and I love to snack.
It's a good thing you
But
like it then.
since snacking is off the table at the moment, I just resorted to coffee, and it gave me the necessary breaks from writing because I just wanted to stretch my legs, and gave me some time to look out of the window and really ask myself, why am I doing this to myself?
I'm still wondering
And
that.
about 2 hours later, I had 10 pages written and was feeling really good about myself.
Yeah.
But here I lost focus and the pace slowed down. I
Yeah.
thought too much about what the character's movement on screen is instead of writing dialogue. And, I decided to take quick breaks in like an hour or an hour and 20 minutes, and so mostly to get coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get bogged down in the details, isn't it? You get lost in the weeds writing basic actions like how someone opens a door. That ends up getting you quite lost. Same with dialogue. People get really lost writing out dialogue. Yeah, fussing over every and ah. It feels like work, but you're not actually going anywhere. Your wheels are just spinning. I think actually maybe a good way to do what they're trying to do here is not to write anything down and just pitch the story constantly. Maybe you could spend 6 hours just pitching a movie and each time you pitch, you get halfway through and it falls apart, and then you get a little further and it falls apart. But eventually you might end up with, a 5-minute pitch that's a really kick-ass story. Once you've got a 5-minute kick-ass story that's, a verbal version of it, you can turn that into a screenplay pretty easily. Maybe I'll give that a go. I'm not going to.
But I was also crying, and it didn't really help that it was a sunny day outside.
I gotta go back.
But we had to grind what the character's movement on screen is instead of writing dialogue. And, I decided to take quick breaks in like an hour or an hour and 20 minutes, and so mostly to get coffee.
Yep.
But I was also crying.
I was crying.
And it didn't really help that it was a sunny day outside, but we had to grind it out. It is 1 a.m. I'm happy. Very happy.
You've got 5 hours.
Look.
Nice.
It says the end. We're done. We're fine.
So he started at 6 a.m. It's 1 a.m. Fuck me. Well done. I mean, no matter what, who cares about the quality of the script? This is an absolute achievement. I get his point, all right? What he's doing here, what he's proving is that the whole mantra of writing is rewriting. So you just got to get something down, and then you've got something to work from. I know from my own experiences, I'm such a better writer when I'm looking at someone else's script. I can come up with great stuff and be like, hey, just do this. I can fix your third act. I know. Have you thought about this? What about this? And I can give you shit tons of ideas. And I always come back to my own stuff and think, Why can't I do that with my stuff? It takes me months to think of solutions that with other people's scripts I think of in minutes. What he's proving here is something kind of similar. He's just getting something down. And yes, it's first draft. It's fucking diarrhea, you know? Sorry, I'm not calling your script diarrhea. What I'm saying is it's the equivalent of just flushing out your unconscious mind onto the page so that you've got something to work from. Now you can take your conscious mind and start chiseling away at what's there and crafting it into a movie.
So, was this worth it? Yes.
Good.
And there are scripts or things I have been writing for 3 months, for weeks, or some cases even years.
Yep.
And I have just been lying to myself. There's always a reason why you're not writing it, but if you just sit down, think about it, put like all of your focus on it, all of your energy to it, you can finish it. Like, even getting the first draft, it's fairly simple. I mean, I did this in 24 hours. Of course, it's not like super good because it doesn't have the depth of characters or the backstory or something like a subtle message that I like to put in my writings.
Yeah.
But 24 hours writing a script, it's possible.
Yep. Fuck yeah, man. Well done. I just want to go back to something you just said.
Some cases even years.
Writing for years. I've just been lying
I have just been lying to myself.
That's interesting.
Like, there's always a reason why you're not writing it.
What are you lying to yourself about?
If you just sit down.
There's always a reason why you're not writing it. That's what he's saying. There's always a reason why you're not writing it. I wonder about this. Like, are you writing films that you think you should write? Or are you writing these scripts that you're abandoning or spending years on and secretly sabotaging yourself? Is it because you're writing a film that you think somebody will make? Or you've seen the kind of stuff that gets made and you're like, I should do that kind of film? I'm curious. Like, I'd love to hear your reasons for, that little piece of insight that you gave us there. There's always a reason why you're not writing it. And only you can know that.
There's a reason why you're not writing it, but if you just sit down, think about it, put like all of your focus on it, all of your energy to it, you can finish it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree. You can do the work to finish it. I can't morally bring myself to write something that I don't give a shit about. That's just me. Like, I can't go through the labor. It's, why would I spend 2 years on something? Okay, if I could do it in 24 hours, that's fine. But yeah, I'm not going to write something for 2 years that my entire heart isn't in. And it won't be any good anyway, even if I did. I wonder if that's what you're getting at. I'm not sure.
Even getting the first draft, it's fairly simple. I mean, I did this in 24 hours, of course.
Yeah, and not to take away from this unbelievable achievement, but the first draft is the easiest thing to get out. And it can be very seductive. The first draft is the most seductive thing in writing. Firstly, you think you've done something amazing and it's ready to shoot. Everybody does. Secondly, because it exists, you think it has value. And it may have a different type of value to the value you assign it. What I mean by that is, yes, it has value because you did the work and you've learned a lot and you've become a better writer just from writing it. You have to accept the possibility that it is shit, though. And we have this tendency that because we wrote it, it must be worth something. I can't have wasted my time. But I would say it's never a waste of time, no matter what. Even if it's a piece of shit and it never gets made, or you read it again and you think, who the hell wrote that? You know what I mean? Like, it's never a total waste of time. Just be sure of the value that you're assigning it. Yeah, most importantly, you now have something to shape and reshape. So don't get bogged down into the groove. the tendency with first drafts is you lock yourself into a road that only goes in one direction and you never deviate from it. So for example, like I've got a script where the opening 15 or so pages is the characters as children, and then there's a time jump at the, around the end of the first act. Does it need to be that? Like, it's been that way since the first draft. Maybe it's not the best way to tell that story.
Of course, it's not like super good because it doesn't have the depth of characters or the backstory or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have the depth of characters because he hasn't done a second draft yet and really gone into himself. You can't do that in 24 hours. You need time. You need these things. They're like wines. You really do have to put them on the shelf for a while and let them, ferment over time because they're just reflections of you. That's if you want to get the best out of them.
I like to put in my writings, but 24 hours writing a script, it's possible. I also found that it is possible for me, who has constantly hands in his pants and wants to move around, hop from one place to another, do one thing then the other thing. It is possible for me to concentrate on this and just soldier through it and finish something massive like this. Would I do it again? No.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're saying no.
Was pain. Yes. Writing for 12 hours, you're not going to get something good. It's just you're making yourself do it.
Yep.
And it is probably good for, let's say, 4 to 5 hours. But for 12 hours, you're just going to end up with a pile of rubbish. Probably like this is. I don't know how this is, so I'm not a big fan of it. But if you want to read it, I'm going to leave it in the description down below and you can check it out. And let me know in the comments what you think. This was very difficult for me.
No shit.
So, thanks for tuning in.
All right. Well, firstly, congratulations. Yes, of course it was difficult. Not for you specifically, for anybody. I couldn't do that. No chance. I would get maybe... Okay, you have to have a gun to my wife and say, I'm gonna kill your wife unless you write a script in 24 hours. Then I could do it. Okay, you wrote the script. Great. What did you learn about yourself? Because it seems like this was more of a personal challenge than a writing challenge. Is that fair to say? And I think you really proved to yourself that you do have discipline. You certainly don't lack it. I mean, fucking hell. A small percentage of people on the planet can do what you just did. I'm not one of them. I've been writing for 20 years. I hope that you've unlocked something in yourself and proven something to yourself. Yeah, well done is all I can say. It's a worrying trend, this writing scripts in a condensed amount of time, but it is super entertaining for me to watch, so I'm all for it. Thanks very much for watching that. And as I always say, if you're feeling a bit inadequate, just turn on the TV and have a look at what gets made, and then get back to work.